Let's kick off the questioning with term limits. Mayor Greg Kurtz has served on and off again for more than about 2 decades, but independents will have a new mayor in November after voters rejected changing the charter to extend term limits. Did you support the push to change the charter to allow 3 consecutive terms? Why or why not? Then Councilwoman Kapusta, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I had the opportunity to serve on the Charter Review Committee in January of 2014, and at that time that was something that was well vetted at the committee level, and it was not thought to be something that would be brought forward, so it was not a charter review change that was brought forward. I did, however, support it at the committee level, and then when we had the vote brought forth by the petition from our residents, I too again supported it. The reason I supported it is because I believe that when you have an individual who is strong and is working in the right direction for the city, I hate to see that decision made by a term limit. I think the decision should be made by our residents as to whether they remain in office.
All right, Mr. Tracus, would you like to go next?
I would. I support term limits. I supported term limits at the state. I'd like to see at the federal level, to be very honest with you. I think that's where it belongs the most. But I support the term limits the way they are currently for the city. I find that the only people who tend to care about term limits are media people and politicians, and most of our constituents are neither.
All right, Councilman Wagner.
I do support the term limits. I think that it's important to bring in new ideas and new vision and make sure that the broader aspect of the community is being reached. I think by establishing term limits, you allow for a change, and I think that with council members being there to help provide some of the continuity, and the fact that in this case, for example, both the candidates running for mayor have been on council, I think we have plenty of continuity. I appreciate what the outgoing mayor has done, as do the rest of the residents. He deserves our gratitude and thanks, but I think that we'd be well served by the term limits and a new mayor.
Great, thank you. Mr. Garnuzzi, your turn.
I do support term limits also. Unfortunately for Mayor Kurtz, I mean, what a mayor he was. If you look back at his accomplishments, why would you want him to go? So I think a lot of people had a hard time with, putting a new leader in charge. But we do have one candidate that I agree that is probably just as good and can be like Mayor Kurtz did and move the city in a successful fashion. What I would like to see is term limits for council be raised to 4 years, but we tried that and it seemed to work. 2 years goes by awful fast.
All right, candidates, you now have 60 seconds for a follow-up. Mr. Tracus, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, not really.
Councilwoman?
I would just say I respect people's decision to have term limits, but I still contend that we want to go with the person and the strength that that person has in the office. And the voters will still ultimately decide whether we have term limits or not, because if that candidate isn't seen as viable, the voters won't re-elect that person. Mr.
Narduzzi, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I mean, I think I've said what I needed to say. I mean, I do support term limits, and we'll see what happens this coming election.
All right, Councilman Wagner.
I guess with my military background, where you change commanders every 2 to 3 years, and behind each of us, there was a whole string of people who were, half of them at least were probably better. New people brought new ideas, good ideas, and I do support term limits.
Great, thank you all.